figure it out.
It helps me understand what your objectives are, actually.
Sorry?
It helps me understand what
my
your
objectives.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, I have to go.
Okay.
It was very interesting.
Thank you. Thanks for attending.
I have also questions, but it's a little bit stupid to make the questions and then go.
You can write me an email and then I can try and respond.
No, anyway, I want to say to you that maybe we can talk later and about, well, I don't understand very well all and the difference between to understand the place and to design a place. And I mean, we can understand the place from the form, and we can understand the place from the relations. And you are putting your accent more in the relations there.
Yes.
But I don't know if it's way to understand something gives at the same time a methodology to design something.
Yeah.
That's because, well, if you give to me, and I will be very bad boy, if you give to me an open space with anything there, and you give to me a program, and you say, make a project from the relations you want to create. Okay.
How do you do this?
Well, I go.
Drop the bomb and go.
That would be the corollary of my question, actually.
Okay, well, it's interesting because also when you saw the last drawing, I see maybe it's my the formation as a designer, but I see directly physical relations and not relations of relations.
Right.
And if you talk about the network, my capacity to imagine is related to physical elements. And to talk about relations is a field of knowledge that, in any way for me, is unknown. To apply on the design. But then I think to make the difference if this research is especially related to try to understand some places, than if it's related to try to design some places.
Well, PhD doesn't have to design anything.
No. I don't say that you design. I'm talking about the methodic to make design. You can also, because I remember your first drawing about the big building and the two boys. And I say, I can understand this from the relations. But the last question is related more about the quality. Is it an issue, the quality here? Because I think I can give to you, in my opinion, an amount of relations, and with these relations to build two different places, the same relations. And then, well, we are talking about quality there, about space.
Well, I suppose this is where this, this premise that I said that I think there's something to be doing with the complex adaptive systems theory. It's a pretty significant premise because what I'm saying there is that there are certain types of relations, or you have the physical grid, but that different spatial grids afford different types of potential in terms of a complex adaptive system. And it's those sorts of topological, morphological qualities that I'm interested in understanding. So, of course, it has a spatial manifestation, but it's not the spatial manifestation that I'm so interested in. It's performatively, what's that doing in terms of enabling complexity to occur? And that goes back to this idea of life and complex adaptive systems feeling like they've got these life qualities. So it's, this idea of what is the quality. I mean, ultimately, I'm interested in urban vitality. So how do you get maximum heterogeneity? How do you get maximum sort of interaction between the different parts happening? And I believe that by understanding performatively what some of these features within a complex system, that they do have a built look to them. They are nodes, but it's not just that it's a node, it's what is it really doing within the system? Because there's all kinds of different nodes, and some of them are gateways, and some of them are focal points, and some of them are internally resilient, and some of them are externally adaptive. And all of these things can be informed by complex adaptive systems theory. So that's why I'm drawn to this, to try to give me more information to understand effective relationships. Because of course, every city is built from relationships, and there's many different relationships, but what are the ones that kind of have this capacity to move towards these complexity notions?
Well, maybe I'm understanding your presentation that you have some implicit critics and some kind of spaces, and that you say that maybe that can be improved in the way that we understand better the relations that take place there.
Right,
and then that's the way I'm talking about quality.
Yes, yes. And
Because,
then if you want to improve relationships, this was where I was a few years ago. Okay, I want to improve relationships. But I didn't have a way to say, well, what makes good relationships, what makes bad relationships? So when I look at complex adaptive systems theory, I think it gives me some clues as to what provides good relationships. And that's sort of why I'm saying this is kind of the premise, is that there's something to be gained from this in terms of understanding the fabric.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your question. That's great.
And we'll talk more.
Yeah, we'll talk more.
All right.
I leave the candles tomorrow. We'll have more. I have a few more slides. Should I go on, or should we just?
Go on.
Okay. I just want to tell you, this is sort of where my interests are, this first part of the presentation. And I just wanted to give you a bit of background on what I've been doing this past year, which is very much related, but you'll see. So I've been trying to understand how other people interested in the spatial disciplines have been trying to gain something from complex adaptive systems theory. And so right now, currently, one of the major ways of understanding complexity in the spatial disciplines is through computational geography. And that was very evident at the conference that was held here 2 weeks ago. People like Michael Batty, Paul Torrance, Sharon Ackerman are very much involved in trying to understand how you can have emergent outcomes from the interaction of agents as modeled within a computer. Again, I don't want to give a bunch of background around things that you're already pretty aware of. I'm assuming most people are familiar with agent-based and cellular atomic, and get this sort of arising differentiation occurring as models unfold. So often when I say I'm interested in complexity theory, people say, oh, so you're going to build a computer model? And I mean, without wanting to be in any way critical of people who are doing this work, because I think it's interesting work and definitely provides something. I've been learning about it. I'm not persuaded that this is the direction that, for me, I want to go. Or I think that there are maybe complementary directions of inquiry. Is probably a better thing to say, that I would like to be pursuing complementary research in complexity theory. I think that there are an array of challenges with these computer models. And I think that they have not been very effective in terms of moving this research into practice, because the models become an abstraction. I think people who are doing this research often become very engaged in the process of the modeling, and it becomes difficult. It's almost like there's a screen for people who are involved in design practice. And it might be different in Europe. Maybe people in Europe are really taking these computational models in planning offices and applying them in cities, but in Canada, I'm not seeing this relationship. And I think that there are other ways in which we can gain understanding from complexity theory into it. So, yeah. Yes. The other way that complexity research is being